Hello, welcome. I'm so glad that you guys came back from your lunch to listen to me, because there's nothing more awkward than standing in front of an empty room. And when I heard the theme for this A-Fest, expanding your influence, I had a strong feeling that I have to share what I have to share. I have to share my message. And I literally forced my team to allow me to come back on the stage to share with you. And surprisingly, what I'm going to talk about is probably a little bit contradictory to the whole theme of the event, which is expanding your influence. And I'll try to explain why. The thing is that influence, or influencing people, is actually a vector. It's a force with a direction. We hope that something that we do, or we are, or maybe something that we say, is going to change people around us, is going to change the world. So there is that vector in it. What I'm going to talk about is a buzzword, but I hope we can go beyond the buzz, is authenticity, or being yourself, being your true self. And that is an internal process. It has no direction. You cannot be authentic for someone else, because it is being true to yourself. It's being yourself. So what I'm going to talk about is that, the moment that you're trying to give direction to your authenticity, to show your authenticity to someone, let's say, or to make a point through being authentic, you're giving a direction to it, and it loses its core, its essence of being internal process, and becomes a show rather than truly authenticity. So that's what we're going to talk about, because I believe, and I'm going to make a tiny logical jump right now here, but the rest of my 28 minutes I'm going to explain what happened in that logical jump. What I believe is that the surest way to actually influence or change the way you influence the world is when you change your relationships with yourself. And if you're in personal growth, you know the first rule of personal growth, which is that nobody can do anything with you or to you. You cannot transform, you cannot grow, you cannot learn through someone else, or you cannot make someone else do that for you. You have to do it yourself. This is the process which comes through you. So if you understand that, you know that actually whatever happens to you is... you react to whatever happens in the world. People who have been in a relationship for a long time, they know that we can't change our partners. We can't, we have this whole desire to make them a little better, to teach them something. But actually what happens is that if you're in a long time in a relationship, we learn to adjust our behavior to each other. Our behaviors, but not the motivation which is beyond that behavior. So if you take that first rule of personal growth, that you do not really change other people, then the whole idea of influence becomes, in a way, an illusion. And the only thing that we can change is ourselves, is the relationship with ourselves. A very simple example, if our partner, let's say, does something to us, and we feel something about that, what happens is that there is an action, and we attribute, or we give it a certain meaning. We interpret it in a way which is not maybe even true. And then we react to our own interpretation. So if we look at it from this point of view, then it makes sense to actually sort out our relationships with ourselves first, before we try to have an illusion of changing the world. So what I believe is that authenticity is not really choice. It's a prerequisite for a lot of things. Being yourself, being honest with yourself, being true with yourself, actually accepting yourself and loving yourself is a prerequisite to being happy, to living a fulfilled life. And it's a prerequisite to actually having any meaningful impact on people in your life, or having an influence in that matter. And the thing is that when we are born, we actually know what it is to be ourselves. And I have to warn you, we're going to talk about authenticity this whole half an hour that I'm on stage. And authenticity is not really a switch, which you can switch on and switch off at will. It is more like a, cord or whatever it is attached to the parachute. When you jump out of the plane and you pull that cord, the chute opens. And that's it. You can't put it back together and get back into the plane. The same thing with authenticity, with being honest with yourself. The moment you learn it back, it doesn't go away anymore. You cannot live the old way. So this is a warning. If you're going on that path, it's like in a movie. You're going on an adventure, and you have to go all the way through. You will have to go into that scary, dark cave and grow through it, and then come out on the other side. So the thing is that, of course, we are born authentic. We are born real. We don't put on anything to be accepted. But then, with time, of course, we learn to put on masks, and this is normal. When we are kids, we are being told, you have to behave in a certain way. Please behave, be polite, right? So we start learning to put on the masks, to put on the mask of politeness, of civility, the mask of being interested in the person who is talking to you. Sometimes the mask of being upset and angry. If you have children, you will relate. A child does something to us, not to us. A child does something naughty, and we want to make a point, this was wrong. And we put on the mask of being upset, mommy is angry. It's a mask. Unfortunately, we do that with grown-ups as well. We sometimes don't let go of our resentment, and we behave as we are upset with someone to make a point that you need to change something. So we put on those masks. And it is okay, because we have different roles. You know, in the morning I was a student, right now I'm speaking here on stage. Sometimes I'm a mother, sometimes I'm a child. So we have those roles, we have those masks, it's fine. It is absolutely fine. The problem is that sometimes we forget what is behind them. We start identifying ourselves with those masks. And I want to talk about why do we do that? Why do we put on the masks? The thing is that one of our strongest needs is to connect. And it is an evolutionary need, because 12,000 years ago, when we lived well, very much like animals, us, as animals, as a biological species, we're very easy prey, right? Very easy food. So, of course, for us being rejected from the tribe was the matter of life or death. I'm not saying anything new here, but the thing is that evolutionarily, our biology hasn't changed so much in 12,000 years. So, of course, right now, rejection also feels like the matter of life or death. And we might say that, oh, come on, we all understand, but the truth is our biology takes it as the question of life or death. That's why rejection is so scary, it's so painful. So we put on the masks to be accepted. And it's fine, because people who don't wear any masks, who are very authentic the way they are and their expression, are sometimes not very pleasant people to be around, unfortunately. So it's fine. It's fine to put on the masks, but we have to understand that that mask is actually standing between us and the connection. So Brené Brown, who I love very much, she's a researcher, she's a sociologist, she's a TED speaker and author. I'm sure a lot of people you know her. She researched what makes people feel strong connections. And what she discovered was this. There's another buzzword there. She discovered that people who are capable of creating strong connections are people who believe that they're worthy of love the way they are right now. They believe that they're worthy of love. It doesn't mean that they don't want to become better, but they believe that they are still lovable. They're people who have the courage to show themselves the way they are to the world. And the buzzword, vulnerability, but the meaning that Brené Brown puts into that, and it is important, is this. Vulnerability is our ability to act despite the uncertainty of how our action is going to be taken. So it's not about sharing the darkest secret about ourselves. It's actually willingness to act without knowing how the world is going to receive you. So, for example, if you're sharing a joke to ease up the mood, it is an act of vulnerability. If you're approaching someone that you don't know, initiating a contact, it's an act of vulnerability. And of course, if you're sharing a dark, painful moment for the first time, it's also an act of vulnerability. I think it is important to understand what it really means, because unfortunately, both authenticity and vulnerability can be masks that we wear. And a mask is something that stands between us and a very strong human connection. So I find it paradoxical. We put on a mask so that we are accepted by the world, yet to be accepted and to truly make strong connections, we have to learn to take off the mask. And I believe that the true problem of current society is the loneliness epidemic. We live in this world where we're separated by a lot of people. We live in big cities, in big buildings. In my building, we have so many people, I can't even imagine to count how many people live in the building where I live. On social media, we have hundreds, thousands of friends. Some of us have millions of followers. We learn to communicate in a certain way. Don't reply a message too fast, it's creepy. Don't write very long message, it's creepy. We live in a world of superficial, bite-sized communication. And we are so obsessed with our reach, while what we need to remember is how to connect with people, truly connect. Jay Shetty was talking about that. When you make 3 steps wide, you have to also go deep, not just wide. So I believe that, well, actually, it's not that I believe, it's research. Research shows that the #1 killer in the contemporary society is social isolation and loneliness, because we've unlearned the art of connecting, of truly connecting, authentically connecting, you can say that. Research shows that if we think that cancer or cardiovascular disease kill us, no, in reality, it's social isolation. Your chances of surviving cancer are much higher if you have strong connections in your life, strong, meaningful connections in your life. It is so bad that in UK they have the ministry to deal with social isolation. I want to come back to the masks, because the masks are the things that actually separate us from connecting truly with people. And one of the masks, which I think is the most dangerous, is the mask of perfection. It's the mask that we put on and we associate with it. It becomes our identity. A lot of us who want to become better, we have a beautiful picture of what it is to be the best version of me. And it is good. Understand me correctly, I'm in business of helping people to transform and grow. I want people to want to be a better version of ourselves. But the thing is that when we wear it as a mask and associate with that, there are a lot of dangers. For example, I'm an enlightened human being, I believe in love, and I live love. How can I not like that person? No, it's impossible. I believe in love. I don't like that. I cannot not like that person. What do? We resort to a very old classical escape mechanism, reaction formation. We pretend that we like that person. We behave as if we like that person. We try to convince ourselves rather than dealing with a question, why does this person trigger that feeling in me? Rather than being honest with ourselves, right? Or another example. I'm a strong person. I'm optimistic. I've been through so much and I'm still standing. How can this little insignificant problem make me feel so bad? It's impossible. I'm an optimist. Shake it off. Push through. Anybody who understands psychology knows that these methods not only do they not work, they're actually dangerous because they undermine our emotional well-being. So what I'm trying to drive at is if we have that mask of perfectionism that we associate with, it has those dangerous places where we're going to ignore certain things which don't fit that picture of perfection. This is not what I want to be. I don't want to associate with that. So what do? We put it in the closet. We close the door. And we stuff this closet with more and more feelings like that. And that's how, over time, we forget what we truly are. Because we don't acknowledge what we feel to the end. I love this saying I'm referring to Ken Wilber. He said, we have a weird obsession about the light side. Everything light and beautiful. But if we acknowledge the fact that everything came from one source, whether you believe in God or universe or Big Bang, whatever you believe in, if we acknowledge the fact that everything came from one source, then why do we demonize the dark? So when I'm talking about being authentic, I'm talking about being honest with yourself and learning to love yourself, love the full spectrum of yourself, not just the facade of perfection that we build, but also all the other rooms of the building, even the basement, even where we don't want to go. So I want to share a story with you. I was born in Soviet Union, and in Soviet Union, we didn't believe much in individuals. We had a system. Individuals were part of the system, and luckily, it's a life of a pet, you know. The system tells you how to be successful. So I had this, what I call Hermione syndrome. I had to be successful by the scenario that the system gave me. I studied well, I went to a good university, I got a good degree, I got a good job, I got married. And statistically, we are supposed to have 2 children. I have 2 children, a boy and a girl. Statistically, correct. By the age of 40, I had built a perfect life. A work that I love. I truly love my work. Business, family, travels, meaningful life. But I realized that the only place where I can afford myself to acknowledge that maybe I'm struggling with certain emotions. Maybe I'm not that happy. Maybe there is something about me which I don't understand how to deal with that. The only place where I could acknowledge that was when I went to the bathroom and locked the door. And nobody could see me because my picture, my mask of perfection, didn't have space for messed up me. I couldn't afford to show it to anyone. And that, unfortunately, unraveled a very long process of self-discovery. How do you know where to dig? At that time, last year, at 40, I decided I'm done. I'm done feeling guilty and ashamed for what I am. It's time I accept myself for what I am. Because I can become better, yes. I can become better. But I cannot become better if I don't acknowledge where I am right now, if I don't accept what I have to work with. And to accept means also to actually be honest and actually see what you have to work with. So how do you know where to dig? Usually the places where we are lying to ourselves. Because trust me, 16 years in personal growth, I know that most of us believe that we are honest with ourselves. We understand ourselves, we know ourselves. That's what I felt last year. I was sincere, I still am. But the truth is that sometimes the deception, that's the essence of deception, the self-deception is about us not even realizing that sometimes we are not living our own lives. So my life last year started unraveling. My beautiful facade of perfect life started breaking into pieces. I had a Disney castle. It was made out of Legos. Lego pieces are still there, intact. I'm putting it back together. I'm not sure what will come out of that, but I believe maybe a spaceship. Definitely not a Disney castle. So... And, you know, I'm actually much happier. I still don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of uncertainty. But one thing that makes me happy, I can just be myself. I don't have to pretend. That's the easiest thing. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to prove. I don't need to show. I can just be myself. It's so easy, so liberating. So Susan David, she has I love her. She is a psychologist. She has a beautiful book called Emotional Agility. It should be a must-read in every school. So Susan David has a very interesting idea. We cannot judge emotions. The moment when you feel something and you tell yourself, oh no, I shouldn't be feeling like that. You know, I shouldn't be liking that person. Or, you know, you lose a job and you're actually feeling excited about the new opportunities rather than feeling scared. Society expects you to feel scared. Or, you know, any feeling where everybody's happy and you feel uneasy, or everybody is sad and you feel actually at peace. Every time you tell yourself, I shouldn't be feeling that, that's where you should dig. Because that's the place where you can find out such interesting things about yourself. And Susan David talks about that. There are no right or wrong emotions. Don't put pluses and minuses to them. Good, bad, positive, negative. Emotions just are. You know, emotions are given to us the same way that pain is given to our physical body. There is a condition when you can't feel pain. And it is a disease, because if you don't feel physical pain, you can go out on a jog, lose a limb, and not notice that. The same way with our emotions. We're given emotions to pay attention to certain parts of our life. And the moment when we judge them, we are not dealing with why they're given to us. So how do you start the path to uncovering yourself is notice the times when you tell yourself, I shouldn't be feeling like that. I have 2 children. I love them. I really love them. But when I come to events like that, I'm most immersed in work, and I enjoy it. I enjoy it to the point where I cannot even remember that I have children for 4 days. Before, I would feel cognitive dissonance. I shouldn't be feeling like that. I'm a bad mom. Now I just accept the fact that, contrary to my own expectations, work is super important to me. We find those places to dig into in areas which are charged with strong emotions. It's often relationships, unfortunately. It's very often our sexuality, our emotional expression. For a woman, young woman, to decide that children is not her path is a scary choice, is a scary decision, because that's not what society expects from her. For a young man to decide that he doesn't want to earn money, that's not his, is a scary thing. And why should he if he doesn't want? So what I'm urging you is that every time when you catch yourself thinking, oh, I shouldn't be feeling like that, go deeper. You might discover a lot of interesting things about yourself. So there are a few tools that you will need to deal with that process. The first one would be to actually learn to deal with pain, learn to deal with negative. I'm sharing some of my teachers because I can't go deep into these topics, I don't have enough time. Galen Tupton, one of the AFES speakers, he talks beautifully about dealing with pain. Susan David and Brené Brown, to whom I have referred, they're also amazing dealing with pain. Person who taught me courage, you would need courage, is actually Haverker. And another interesting thing you will need, and that's the scariest, is to communicate your new you to the world. And this is the guy, he's a personal friend, he's a teacher. Unfortunately, he teaches only in Russian, but he teaches the open dialogue principles. It's not about radical honesty, it's about honesty with yourself and also a healthy way to communicate with the world. So let me come back to what happens next after you find your path to yourself, after you discover who you truly are, after you realize that the life that you have built might not be completely what you wanted. It's communicating that to the world, and that's the scary part. Because we are afraid to hurt people that we love. And the thing with hurt, it's very interesting. You see, if you're a parent, you would relate to that, but people who don't have children but have people that they love in their life, they would also relate to that. When a child is born, parent wants that child to be happy. So what do? We do everything that the child doesn't feel pain. We protect them from pain. Yet all of us understand that pain is an inevitable part of life. It's going to happen, whether we like it or not. No matter how enlightened and smart we are, it's going to happen. So why do we deprive our children of the ability to learn how to cope with something inevitable in safe environment? And we do it to our loved ones all the time. We try to protect our loved ones from pain, sacrificing our own truth, thinking that if we pretend, thinking that if we sacrifice our happiness, that the people around us are going to be happier. The thing about pain is, unfortunately, we all have our own journeys, and sometimes our journeys need to teach us lessons, and we have to go through them. And if somebody comes and helps you to avoid that lesson, guess what will happen? You will get it anyway, again. So that's the thing. Unfortunately, sometimes in life we have to take things philosophically, and I have this weird thing about me. I try to look about everything in life philosophically. I identify myself as everyday life philosopher. So how do you communicate your truth to the loved ones, knowing that it might hurt them? That's actually the scary moment about being true to yourself. What do you choose? To compromise what's important to you so that your loved ones don't feel hurt? Or to stay true to your truth and actually witness your loved ones going through pain? When me and Vishen decided to separate, apart from that being a very complicated emotional process for both of us, the thing that I was most scared of was telling my parents and my children. And of course, my mom didn't take it very well. She was in denial. She was upset. She tried to convince me that I'm wrong. Well, we are wrong, essentially, because it was a mutual decision. We heard a lot that comment, "You guys, what are you doing? You're going to hurt people in your life." What do you do in that moment? Do you stay true to what you know is important for you? So it was hard with my mom. I didn't want to talk to her for a while because I knew that if I talk to her, I'm going to try to convince her that I'm right, to convince her to feel differently about what's happening. But on the other hand, I also understood that what she's going through is her own reaction to what I and Vision have decided. It's not about her, me and Vision anymore. Something we decided had triggered something in her. And it is her own journey, it is her own pain, because in all honesty, nothing changed for her in her life at all. So for a week, I didn't dare to talk to her. And sure enough, in a week, she called. She called and she said, you know, Kristina, I started thinking about my own life, and I realized that for 25 years, I was afraid to make the choice to stay true to what I am. And for 25 years, I would lock up myself in the bathroom, like I did, to cry. Was it worth it? She said, you know, after I understood that, I understand that what you're doing is brave. And even if the whole world is against you, I'm going to support your choice. And that call, that was something which I needed to hear. Because of course I was doubting if what we chose, if what we knew that it was important for us. If we are doing the right thing, knowing that people in our lives are going to be hurt. So, not to make it too gloomy, years ago, I used to work with refugees. And refugees in Asia have really sad stories. They usually lose everything in their lives, including their loved ones. And so I saw a lot of misery, obviously, on one side. On the other side, me and Vision were building up Mind Valley. And Mind Valley is all about, you know, helping people to live more fulfilled, extraordinary, happy lives. I'm the person who teaches how to be happy. So I had this cognitive dissonance in my head all the time. Misery, happy, how do I marry them? And once Vision was talking on the same stage with Dalai Lama, and I was lucky to ask that question, to present that question to Dalai Lama, because Vision was speaking with him, so we had the audience. And he said, Kristina, you can't help anyone if you're not happy. So if you choose not to be happy for the sake of someone, remember you can't help anyone if you're not happy. And a prerequisite to happiness is being honest with yourself, is being yourself, truly yourself, being authentic yourself. It's a prerequisite for happiness. So what I want to finish it with, guys, please be happy. Thank you.